So I'm like kind of partway through. I've killed one of the bosses so far, and aside from the whole aesthetic thing of the game, like obviously the aesthetic is like the hands down best part to like pull a person into the game. What I really like is that it actually feels a lot like a tabletop game. I've mentioned before, I think, how much I like Torchbearer, which is a game, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's super cool. But this is a lot like that. So much, in fact, that I think that Luke and the team that's making Torchbearer also is doing some stuff that ties in with this game. So I'm going to keep an eye out. So if you like Darkest Dungeon, check out Torchbearer. If you already like Torchbearer, check that action out. And I need to get some deeds, so let's go to the Weald and kick some pig ass. So I know the like optimal squad is a lot of Hellions, but I'm trying to mix it up, try some different stuff. So I'm gonna do what I normally do, except I don't think that I have. Yeah, I don't have a knight, so I'm just gonna use 2 lepers and a vestal, and let's throw in. I don't know. Let's get Guinand. Let's throw this guy in. Okay, so what am I on? I'm doing a medium mission. Torches and a schwack of food. Black screen, huh? Okay, one sec. Let's see what I can do here. Check out my awesome desktop. OBS funnel. Okay. Yeah, it is like a tabletop game. Just imagine it. I'll describe it to you. Okay. We got it back. While I'm alt tab, it's back. Did I fix it? Oh, thanks. Hang on. That's so weird. Okay. Well, thanks a lot, game. Okay, let's do the options. I can run it in windowed mode. That'll work fine. Yeah, OBS is kind of a piece. Okay, so I'll take a trip back to my exciting desktop. Look at all my Steam games. Just to leave the game dark. Okay.
Ruin has come to our family.
Well, in case you didn't know, ruin has come to their family, and it's full of monsters and bad times. How are we doing? Yeah, we are back. Okay, well, you'll all have to tolerate my Steam bar and the windowed mode, but whatever. I can stream. This is not my thing. I don't do this. Well done. Okay. Alright. Alright. So I think my plan was to go and kill some pig
I
types.
was lord of this place before the crows and rats made it their domain.
God, this guy, like, his narration is so good. Like, I just want to play this game over and over and memorize the way he speaks so that I can speak that way when I run games. Like, it's just so grim. I love it. Like, it's weird to say, but the narration is like one of my favorite things about it. So what's really cool, fuck shovels. What's really cool is that the studio that makes this, Red Hook, they're locals. So they their office is in I think in this neighborhood. I can kind of see like the area where there's a bunch of like developers from my computer. See that neighborhood, and yeah, they've just done such a good job. I'm so proud of them.
all these paths once.
It's one really cool thing about living in an area of the world where there's like devs a lot. Like, I mean, I imagine it's like living in California, right? Like, it's really cool to be like, yeah, the people that made this are from where I'm from. Good start. Really good start, Rissant. And now you're poisoned. So, yeah, I mean, the thing that, like, really drew me to this game, kind of in the first place, is how much like a tabletop game it is, but it automates a lot of the stuff that would take a long time. Like, each fight, even in Torchbearer, which is a game that's really, like, tightly organized, each fight would take quite a while to get through. But with the game handling all of the management of math and stuff, which if you've ever watched me stream or anything, you know I hate. Yeah, it's super cool because it just like handles that for you. You can blow through it really quickly. You can get a lot more done. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah. Okay, so I'm exploring rooms. So I guess I should probably, let's see. 14 rooms. Quick, what's 90% of 14? Let's go back the way we came. Yeah, I was super bummed about not being able to play Swan Song. I've been so into it the last couple of sessions. Obviously because I'm getting to like explore some of the lore that I've been... I mean, if you've been watching the show since the first episode, you know that some of the stuff that's coming out now, because we started on Andoni, some of the stuff that started out now is like, it's starting to come to light. So it's really great as a GM to have all that stuff piled up and then be able to show it off. And it's really cool because... Oh, you whiner. Look at how screwed up this guy is. I've been using him forever. Can't go to the brothel. Likes Satan. Clumsy. Afraid of Satan. Likes gambling. And now is slow. Sad times for Rissant. Anyway. Yeah, so as a GM, it's really cool to be able to like build up all that stuff, to work with the players. Like I've been working with Jeff a lot between sessions to further kind of build up what the Fotenhauer dudes are about, what that's like. So you know,
nature herself,
a giant evil tree,
victim to the spreading corruption, malformed with misintent.
Stress is good for you. But what's cool is playing a game like Swan Song or Mirror Shades or whatever on online for you guys, like for an audience, is that you're exploring that story not just with 4 people but with 4,000, and then to have all the really cool feedback between sessions. It's a weird experience, but also really cool. After the first few sessions, I feel like I kind of got used to having that audience. Obviously, Swan Song is my firstborn as far as online streamed stuff goes. So it's been really fun to use it as a way to learn kind of how to improve all of that stuff. Something that I've found in the last little while that's really helped me, and this kind of ties into what I like about Darkest Dungeon, is like the narration and stuff. I've learned a lot from listening to audiobooks. I got an Audible subscription, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and I've listened to about as many audiobooks since then, and I find them just like incredibly helpful to help me figure out like really neat ways to describe stuff, and like the pacing of the way I describe things. I find that like cadence of description really helps. A lot of the time, what I think people do is they want to just get out, as a GM, they want to just get out as much information as possible, which is good. Like you want to describe all of the things that you want to describe. You want to be able to get the players on board with the stuff that you're narrating, but also like there's a drama to it, not to sound too cliche, but you're essentially manipulating the feelings of your players by saying things in a certain way and pausing at the right time. you know, there's a lot of that goes on in a good GM sort of performance, because in a lot of ways, like a traditional gaming group, you're really just like sitting around a table entertaining each other. That got really dark. So, you know, as a GM and as a player, the better you can do with your skill at, you know, practicing your accents. You know, I mean, we can tease Wheat all we want about how his space Irish, Scottish, sometimes Australian accent, you know, how it works, and whether it's any good. He's still doing something that's entertaining, like for us as a group, you know. So what I think is really cool about like listening to audiobooks and stuff is it's functionally like non-practice practice. You know, if you've got a commute, you can just hang out and listen to somebody else who's really good at describing things describe stuff. Now you still have you know, thinking on your feet to do, but what I think is really interesting is, you know, being able to do that. It's a skill. You practice it, right?
As the fiend falls, a faint hope
and that's one way to do
blossoms.
it, to do your homework. And I think that if you're listening to the right audiobooks and if you're processing the right media, like you can do this with comics or whatever. Really, like any venue in which there's the written word or the spoken word. But I think that, you know, you're doing a sort of two-part job in that you're listening to someone describe something, but you're also absorbing the milieu of the thing that you're listening to or reading, right? You're picking up hints on what you can incorporate. Like if you're watching Swan Song and you are at all a student of science fiction, the call-outs in that show are clear and obvious. I mean, at least to me, you know, Aliens, Blade Runner. I said from the beginning that the show is inspired in a lot of ways by Ian M. Banks' Culture series, and especially now with the AI getting more and more involved. I think that you can kind of see my influences in a really obvious way, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, a lot of GMs, especially early GMs, you know, if you're GMing your first game or whatever, you try to be super unique and super inventive and end up putting together, you know, worlds that just don't. I mean, they take too much work, right? Like, I'm a student of GM prep, of feeling like it's a thing that has value. You know, like a lot of newer games, a lot of new designers don't really believe in GM prep as a thing, right? They'll try to sell a game as like not. It's quick prep. It's like you can play it without having to do anything in advance. But I kind of like. I mean, that's good for a first session. Dungeon World does that a little bit, but I like to be able to build some stuff in my head between sessions. It's kind of important to me as a GM. So I don't know. I think that if you absorb a lot of media, especially if you're doing so kind of thoughtfully, you end up with a lexicon of reference that you can use in anything. You know, when I start running a new game, the first thing I do is I look to see if the game manual has, like if the book has a bunch of references in it. Like, I mean, if you look at Eclipse Phase, and I'm not saying play Eclipse Phase, I like it as an aesthetic, but not necessarily as a game. But it's worth checking out. And if you look in the back of it, it has maybe the biggest selection of books and comics and other sort of related media that of any game I've ever seen. So it's really cool to. I'm really getting paid back for my fuck shovels comment earlier.
Rely on an indefatigable purpose.
Yeah, it's a way to build up an idea of what you might want in a game. And I definitely kind of go out of my way to absorb additional media when I can. You know, I watch sci-fi movies with the express intent to say, okay, like what can I incorporate into a game? You know, I wanted to have a jailbreak. There it is again. I wanted to have a jailbreak scene in Swan Song forever, like since I went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's lots of stuff that just gets pulled in from all the different stuff that you absorb, and I think that, you know, when it comes to GM prep and for like getting ready for a game, the best thing you can do is just keep it in your head and do what you normally do every day. A lot of the NPCs in the games that I play. God damn it. It's fine. Let's just go on to the back there, lever. A lot of the NPCs in the games that I play or run are from some combination of characters from, popular fiction and people I know, random people that I see, in transit, on the bus, that kind of thing. And you can kind of absorb what people think about a character by just making them real, right? You can enforce that, because one thing that I try to do a lot and maybe you can see this in Swan Song, is make all the NPCs very human. They're real. Like they want normal stuff. They want to be safe and get money and be happy. But the PCs get in the way, and the circumstances of the universe get in the way. So it's it's a useful thing. It's not useful having a Vestal in the front row. This is messy. I'm gonna move her and hopefully kill some of these guys. So yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, it works in the inverse too. Like, I'll find that I'm playing. I'll play games like this one, and want to go back and revisit RPGs that are like it. Wheat and I were just talking about a comic series called The Wicked and the Divine, and how the first thing we both thought when we read it was. I just dragged that guy back to the front. Was that it would make a really good role-playing game setting, right? And like, obviously you have some degree of... I should stop doing this, they'll never get out of the row. You have some degree of sort of like genre stuff you have to do as a GM and as players beforehand. Like, if I said, okay, we're going to play a game and it's going to be sort of like based on Darkest Dungeon, I'd have to talk to the players and be like, okay, so it's like kind of gritty and dark and like a little melodramatic, kind of heavy metal, very Lovecraftian, and get everybody on board with the idea that that's the kind of characters that we're going to play. But with a little luck, we're playing a game that does that genre enforcing for us. Like, if you watched Roleplay R&D and saw them do Pendragon is all about that action. Like, it creates mechanisms that make you play a certain way. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're playing a game or you're watching a movie or, reading a comic book, and you're like, man, this would make an awesome RPG, you want to find a game that mechanically does as much work for you as possible. The greater the glory. Because if you're fighting the game to do a thing you want... I totally forgot I could camp. I'm like most of the way through. Okay, I'm going to camp these guys. Yeah, like it's most of the way. You want to have the game do the work for you. So what you might end up running into is a situation in which there are no games like that, which is tricky, right? You end up having to do the insane thing, isn't it, of making your own game, which is, I think you should do it, but, it's a lot of work. Okay, do I not have anything else that heals stress? I really want to... Okay, there you go. It's 14. Yeah, look at that. Okay, cool. So I got 7. I will heal up. Yes. I really like the camp bit because it reminds me of my favorite part of fuck you, burn ears. It reminds me of my favorite part of Dungeons and Dragons, like as a kid. Like, I like the combat and I like the all the other stuff, but I really like those bits. When Jackie, those dots are the stress. I really like the bits of the game where you're not necessarily doing anything active, and instead you're just playing your characters. You're like, okay, well, it's nighttime, we're sitting around the fire and having these conversations. And it's really cool. So I like that about this. And there's a whole, again, going back to the Torchbearer thing to draw some comparisons. So in Torchbearer, you're playing the game during the regular turns, and then you're going into the camp. And in camp, you're spending your points that you earn from role-playing. You're spending those points on getting to do extra stuff in camp. It's really an ingenious system. Definitely check it out if you like this. Yeah, there's some very cool stuff going on in that game if you're into Darkest Dungeon. I would love to play it on roleplay, but mechanically there's a lot of fiddly stuff. There's cards, there's dice, there's character sheets with a ton of stuff on them. Yeah, it would be really fun. I'd need to definitely enlist the help of my dear friends at Roll20 to be able to. You know, you don't have to be so difficult. She just... And then she's mean. She's just mean to the other... They're already lepers. Oh my god, I should change the names to Dr. Grigori. Okay, well... Fine. There we go. Yeah, I've got a long list of games that I would love to play on roleplay. Let me take a look at my phone and see what chat is having to say. Yeah, okay, so first edition D&D, yes, totally. I mean, there's several versions of D&D that are qualified to be first edition. You know, like OD&D is very old and very confusing and not a great game. It's not very well put together.
But a victory nonetheless.
But Dungeons & Dragons Basic Edition, edited by Tom Mulvey, probably my favorite version of D&D. I should have brought like 10 shovels. Check it out if you're interested in the roots of D&D, but it plays a bit like this too. Torchbearer was very much inspired by Tom Mulvey's edit of Dungeons & Dragons. It's very, very cool, and does a lot of that stuff. Yes. Look at that, I did it, and I only took like 1,000,000 points of stress. But only Berniers took it for real. Okay, cool.
Bring soldiers and supplies. Let them arrive on Harry.
Alright, so get a bunch of shit. People level up. Damn it. It's funny, I don't want too many level 3 guys because once they get to that point, they don't want to go on easy missions, and I'm still being a big baby about this game.
There is a great horror beneath the manor. A crawling chaos that must be destroyed.
How do I rename this character? Alright. Grigori the Leper. Hey. You jerk-off game. There we go. Do you have any more lepers? Oh, I'm renaming you. Come here, friend. Sheldrick. Okay, let's see, get Sheldrick the Leper. Who else wants to be a leper? Nobody? Okay. Okay, let's see about curing these losers. So I'm really enjoying watching everybody try to figure out what's going to happen on Swan Song. It's super funny. Not funny in that you're like getting it wrong, but funny in that I just quite like watching. And I like seeing kind of the stuff that the game has implied to the viewers. I find that really fascinating, where it's like the things that people pick up on versus the things that people miss is really, really interesting to me as a GM. Sure, let's just put my whole team in there. Okay. I think I have enough people. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go on another mission here. But first, can I upgrade armor? Yeah.
A sharper sword, a stronger shield. Anything to prolong a soldier's life.
A sharper sword. I love these dudes. They're a little bit of a Captain Nemo-esque racial stereotype, but it's not too bad. I wished that they'd been a little bit more diverse about the characters, but I do also like that it's not just like healer and wizard ladies. I like that the grave robbers are women. And I want to say that the plague doctors are too. I don't think it's like explicit, but they kind of seem like it. Okay, all right. We got enough people to go on a mission. Let's go on a mission. Reclaim some relics. What's that, level 3? I'm gonna bring you. I don't have enough high level guys for that one. I don't think. See how cautious I'm being? Let's do another wield. This time I will bring shovels. I apologize, Fate. Dark Fate, for daring to countermand you. I had a Hellion, but I don't think she died. I think she wandered off, as they do when drinking. So let's take burners. Let's take 2 of these bad boys. Yes, Hellions are also women. That is a good point. My friend actually did some really badass Hellion cosplay. Yeah, if you Google Hellion cosplay, Iron Swan, you can see it. She looks wicked. Her and her sister do. A lot of cosplay, and they've done some really cool stuff. So, yeah, you should check it out.
I knew all these paths once.
So I think that of all the levels, this like area type might be my favorite because I love Fungus men so much. So much Fungus men. Myconids are the best.
Cruel machinations spring to life with a singular purpose.
Oh, hey. A crest. And Burners has got a hard-on for violence. That's fine. Just yeah. So I was thinking about, how to adapt something like this game to a tabletop environment. Above and beyond what Torchbearer is already doing, like places where, you'd want to add additional stuff. And I was thinking it would be cool, because I've never really seen a game that adequately does, like, mental conditions, like the ways that these characters turn into total assholes when you don't give them what they want or they get stressed out. And how to, like, give that to players in a way that rewards them, but doesn't also, like, let them ignore it, A bit like, like I was saying before with the Pendragon thing, but also just generally like saying, okay, you no longer have good job. You no longer have the control over this part of your character. Like, this is something that the dice will decide, or something the GM will decide for you. Look at that sad little corpse. Look at him. Aww. Little guy. Nothing of value. I take his skull. Because I'm super into, even as a player, I'm super into in games having a game tell me what to do, and it's like, it's not forcing me to play a certain way exactly. It's just like I only have control over certain things. Like for example, okay, if I have a high sword skill, it means that in conflicts where swords are important, I'm likely to get what I want more often. And it's just the same way. Like, if I didn't want to do that, I would build into the game a way to provide players who don't like being kind of told what to do, who are like, well, I want my character to be immune to your bullshit, GM. Give them an opportunity to buy that in exchange for other stuff. So, like, okay, cool, you're not as good with a sword, but your character has an intense willpower, and I'm never going to be able to, like, steal your agency away from you in any way. So you'd want to build that in. But also, in a sense, you kind of want to, like, reward players who are willing to take that risk, who are willing to say, like, okay, I'm going to let the game take over my character in some ways. you know, so that's a thing that I think would be really cool. And some games do it okay, like, I'm rolling my eyes at this, but Vampire the Masquerade has mechanisms for, like, if you reach a certain threshold, then bad stuff happens. But that's, I don't know, that's not really my jam. Just because it's like AD&D, and when you screw up, on your alignment, and the GM like punishes you because, you know, lose 20,000 experience because you're acting lawful good when you're obviously chaotic good. I prefer the carrot to the stick when it comes to games, and I think most players do too, because you don't want to feel like you're being punished for playing a certain way. So, you know, something that I find really interesting in game design in general, like video games, is that lack of control. Is like, you know, it's not so much what your character can do, it's the space around what your character can do that you have to fill with action. You know, like if Minecraft had blueprints and all you had to do was fill things with, you know, equipment, then, you know, it wouldn't be that fun. But the fact that you can kind of Lego it and build your own stuff, that's what's really neat. So, you know, something that I think is cool, and definitely if you look at my designs, like Dungeon World in particular, that's a thing that I value really highly, is inspiring players to behave a certain way, by giving them a reward, an in-game, in-character advancement type reward. And I learned a lot of that from, obviously, from playing other games.
But a victory nonetheless.
What do we get? Oh, steady bracer, so cool. Accuracy. Let's give it to this moron. I never crit anyway. Alright. So let's head back this way. So yeah, I mean, here's the thing about like player behavior, right? Is that a game's interaction comes from the mechanics and the inbuilt ways that players feel about what they're doing. Is the actions that they take are emotional, right? Like a player's going to do what feels like the right thing to do, and more and more at the beginning of the game they're going to do those things without thinking about the mechanics. But as they learn the mechanics, then they're going to do more stuff based on the mechanical choices in the game. So it's, you know, it's a case of building in a mechanical system that players will adapt to over time, but can still embrace emotionally. You can still make emotional decisions and not feel like you're being punished for it. So, I mean, I think this game does that by, obviously, like the easiest way to do that is by creating tutorial scenarios and making sure that they introduce mechanics in a smart way. And there's this video, and I talk about it all the time, constantly, about Conveyance and about Mega Man X. It's an Ego Raptor video. If you haven't seen it, and if I had more than one monitor, I would just go and link it to you right now. But I'm sure someone in chat will find it. Ego Raptor does this video where he explains how
Finding the stuff is only the
God, like how perfect Mega Man is at Conveyance, and what a useful tool it is to teach people what a game is about. Not by saying like,
as the light game
here's what the game is about, but by showing like these are the ways this game is about that.
Clear.
Yeah, Mega Man, jumping and shooting. So, like, this game, I think could do better at its Conveyance. Like, I definitely feel like the early missions don't really explain things. There's a lot of tutorial information. But, that being said, I also feel a lot better at the game than I did when I started, so I'm obviously learning something. And I think that punishing the players for failure is a big part of the aesthetic of the game, right? Like, it's the way that this game works. So, learning that you're going to fail is part of that Conveyance protocol. It's part of teaching that stuff to your players. I really like, and I wish more games had this, and I would definitely like pay extra for it, but like developer commentary on games. The first time I think I ever saw it was in Portal, where you can walk around and activate developer commentary nodes. God damn it. Voville, commentary notes, and they explain to you, like, this is what we were thinking, we did this, and most playtesters did this, and like, that, as a game designer and as a fan of game mechanisms, I find that stuff absolutely fascinating. So, you know, I would love to see more of that in these types of games.
They can be beaten.
And hey, the game's not out yet, right? So, dear game studio, make it happen. I want to see that action. All right, so I don't have breaks or overlays or anything, so I'm just gonna mute y'all. You can enjoy my desktop for a moment. I'm just gonna run and grab some water. I will return momentarily. Enjoy the idling animations. Yo, sorry. Professionalism, that's what you get here at twitch.tv/Adam Coble. High production value. Speaking of production value, if you like listening to me ramble about GMing and games and stuff, this Friday, Steven, hateful Swan Song ruining Steven, if we choose to forgive him and let him live, he's got a show with me on ItMeJP where we talk about being a GM. It's a show I always love to do. What are these, Onyx? See you later, Citrine. Yeah, I really love doing the show. Super fun. We basically do a 2-hour thing on a particular theme. We're like the This American Life of game mastering. We're gonna do this week. We're gonna do an episode called "Embracing Chaos," which, you know, if you like chaos, come on down. It's gonna be mostly about like randomness in role-playing games and how you can use it to your advantage. In what circumstances you would use it. The show is on Friday. It is 5 o'clock my time, so 5 o'clock Pacific. And it's going to be at ItMeJP. It's called Being Everything Else. It is a show of some small acclaim, and hopefully we'll be able to expose ourselves to a bigger audience. Chuckle. By way of JP's excellent production. We're really excited because, you know, if you watch Steven or me run either Being Everything Else or you've been attending this delightful exhibition, you'll notice that we're not super great at the streaming thing yet. So, you know, something to check out, and we're super excited. And I think that you know, it's kind of a neat turn for for real roleplay for that channel, in that it's one of the first things that we've done that JP isn't going to be directly on camera for, which I think is going to free him up to do
The match is
kind of more of the background
A
stuff.
blazing star
He's
is
moving,
born.
into doing more of that, and I think this is a cool experiment. We're really excited to be a part of that. Yeah. What chaos god do I worship? I want to say Korn, because Korn is so badass, but secretly in my sexy heart of hearts, I know it's Slanesh. Can't help it.
ambushed by
Just love those
foul
demon
invention.
I'm pretty into it. Like I'm realizing I've been GMing for Christ. I got my first copy of AD&D when I was 10. So 21 years now. I tell you, I feel pretty pretty old, but yeah. So 21 years of GMing, and I think that I'm finally figuring out like how to express some of the stuff that I've just been doing kind of like without thinking. And a lot of that advice kind of went into Dungeon World, but there's a lot of stuff you can only really pick up like practically, and I think it's really cool to have a venue. I think it's really cool to have a venue to do some of that for people who want to GM, because I think a big thing that prevents people from getting into role-playing games is I don't have a GM and I'm too scared to GM. Like, it sounds like a big deal and it's really scary. So, I think that everybody should GM. I think more new gamers, more women, more people of color, like we need a more diverse group of individuals playing role-playing games. And honestly, like,
Every cleared path and
the only way that that's going to happen is that if we mentor those types of people, right? As if we teach people, like, look, it's okay that you've never played a role-playing game before. It's not that hard. There's no, like, magic trick to it. Like, there's a bunch of things you can do that's practice and things that will, like, help you get better. And we talk about those on the show. And, I've always got ideas about, how people can be a better GM. But honestly, it's just like, don't be scared and do it, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think that it's, I think it's a thing that more people can do than they think. Oh no, syphilis. I'm gonna go and rename her. Hold on. Poor Vestal, who has syphilis. Your name is now Prosper. Do I have room for Trudeau? Yeah, okay, there you go. Poor syphilitic Prosper Trudeau. You're so gross. So very gross. That's what you get. Alright, I'm gonna throw some of these suckers back in the pit, and then I think I'm ready for level 3. I'm gonna gird my loins and hurl myself into the pit and see if I can get through a level 3. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I think the thing that I really like about role-playing games, and there's actually an article floating around, a Lifehacker article, and it was about, I saw it today, it was about like the surprise benefits of playing role-playing games, which, none of them were a surprise to me or anyone who's played them before, but I think it's really cool. Like, there's a lot that role-playing games can bring to people, especially people who are not necessarily like neurotypical or on the some spectrum of non-normative thinking. I think it can really be a helpful tool. There's lots of evidence of like role-playing as a good way for people to get like therapy or deal with post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever. So super cool. Role-playing is a thing that I think everybody should do at least a couple of times in their lives, because it's just such a great. Oh yeah, Wizard Hag. Let's do it. yeah, it's just such a great experience. And obviously, like, I'm biased, but still, bias or no. If you're in my channel and you have never played a role-playing game before, A, what in the crap are you doing here? Who in the hell are you? And 2, go out and play an RPG right now. Ask your friends. Find some nerds. Go on Roll20. Check out the LFG. Go on Reddit. Role-playing games are the best. But in the meanwhile, you can hang out here and watch me play this occasionally frustrating game. Though I'm having kind of a killer session this one through.
I had collected many rare.
I have no idea how long I'm going to
volumes
be
on ancient herbal
streaming,
properties,
but
and was set to enjoy several weeks immersed in comfortable study.
aw.
My work was interrupted,
So somebody
by
in
a
chat just said
singularly
that
striking young woman who
one
insisted
of the
on
women they used to work with
repeated
was
calls to
dating
the
someone,
house.
and they found out he played D&D, and then she broke up with him, and I do not understand that. People who play Dungeons & Dragons are sexy. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. One other thing too, like if you're looking to get into RPGs, try to find like a local con or semi-local. I mean, I know, like as a Canadian, local for me, like the nearest city to Vancouver is like 4 hours away. But you know, in your county or near in your town, there's probably like a local convention. It might be like a games convention, but it might also just be a like a comic convention or whatever, but a place where nerds are gathered, and see if you can't hook up a game with some strangers there. Con games are really fun, and like for me personally, they take up a big part of the chances that I have for playing new games. You know, I do a lot of kind of one-off experimentation stuff at conventions that I wouldn't otherwise at home. And you get to play with experts, right? You can meet up with people who play games and have been playing them at home for a really long time, and they can teach you how to play those games. You know, anecdotally, Dungeon World wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a local convention down in Seattle called Go Play Northwest, where Tony Dowler, who's a fantastic cartographer. If you've never seen his work, like Alt-Tab right now and just Google Tony Dowler maps. Tony does amazing work. You probably recognize his work if you've seen any kind of like indie dungeon crawl game in the last little while. But yeah, so we met Tony at that, Sage and I met Tony at that con, and that's where we started working on Dungeon World. So if you've never attended a convention, if you're like old hat at games, if you're just getting into role-playing games, you don't have any idea what you're doing, just like, yeah, check out a convention, because worst case scenario, you know, maybe you don't necessarily find anybody to play with, but you can kind of see what's out there. And if you do find someone to play with, it might turn into a regular jam. I've met so many good people at gaming conventions. Ben Robbins, who designed Microscope, I met him at Go Play. I've spent there was a local story games convention where I had the pleasure of meeting Avery, who made Monster Hearts. She's fantastic. You know, a lot of the people that I consider like really close friends came through gaming, and I met them at convention. So this has been Adam gushing about why you should go to game conventions. You know, like even big non-tabletop focused conventions like PAX. PAX is getting to be pretty huge for tabletop, especially PAX East. Their tabletop section is huge. So check that stuff out. I actually love the crowds at PAX for the most part. They're really enthusiastic about stuff. Like if you're into learning something new, or you want to teach people something. Like I run, I sort of work at the, I usually work with the Burning Wheel guys at their booth, and we run a booth at PAX East every year. And I just love when random nerds come up and are like, oh, hey, what is this? And I'm like, oh, it's a role-playing game. They're like, I don't know what that is. Tell me everything about it. You know, that level of excitement and like willingness to just try stuff is, to me, pretty much the best thing you can have as a nerd. You know, like watch some new TV show you have never heard of, or absorb someone else's being stoked. It's why I don't understand when nerds have to shit on each other for liking stuff that's different than they like, you know? Like, there's tons of games that I'm just not interested in. Like, okay, prime example, I do not understand MOBAs. Like, I've played Heroes of the Storm, I've played Dota, I've played League. I do not get it. I am so bad at them because I don't get it. And I can't get my head around those games. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like, people who play Dota are crappy, you should play whatever instead. Like, get stoked. We all have this insane breadth of like game options to check out, right? Like, it's there's never been a better time to be a dork, and there's no reason why we have to be elitist about being dorks. You know, I don't mean to like moralize about it too hard, but be stoked, get stoked. You know, like, learn things and check stuff out. And like, honestly, I the whole MOBA thing, like, I don't get it, but I try, right? Like, I played it, and I played it with people who like it, and it never did anything for me, but I like when people are excited about stuff. If you've you know, if you've been tuning into Swan Song for a while, you remember back in October I went to a game convention called Big Bad Con, which is in San Francisco. It's in Oakland, technically, for whatever that means. But and it's really good, like really good. The convention was fantastic, and the reason why I liked it was because I tried a new kind of game there that I never played before. So the last 2 years that I went, I played in a LARP in both of them, and they're like not like like foam swords and shields kind of a LARP, though those I think are probably pretty fun too. That's a thing I'd like to try. It's on my list. But like fairly emotionally intense, like Nordic LARP. Which, if you don't know what that is, there's another thing you can go Google. Nordic LARP. It is intense. But they're both like, yeah, dystopian settings, short form LARPs, you know, a couple of hours. Really fun, and I would never have learned that I like that kind of game, except that I finally got to play it because some friends of mine were really excited and got me on board. And so, you know, it's a thing. It's a thing that you should keep in mind as a thing to do. Try all kinds of new stuff. I mean, unasked for advice, obviously, but yeah. So while I'm stumbling around in the darkest dungeon, if you guys, if chat has anything in particular they would like me to expound upon, I'm happy to hear it. I've got y'all on my phone here, so if there's anything that you, yeah, if there's anything you're curious about, you want me to talk about role-playing stuff, want me to talk about Darkest Dungeons, you want me to try to correlate the two, I would be happy to do so. I'm just here to keep myself entertained, and I was going to be sitting here playing this game anyway, so maybe we can all make ourselves feel better about the lack of tonight's Swan Song. Shed a single tear. I get asked a lot about doing like a one-shot for like subscribers, or doing like a paid GM gig. And I have like the trick, and this is the thing, is that like Swan Song and Mirror Shades and like the rest of the roleplay stuff, like that, it's as good as it is because there's a lot of like time and energy invested into it. And like even with the one shots, they're people who are really familiar with each other. So there's a degree of kind of unseen practice or work that goes into those shows that you wouldn't get out of a one shot. And so it's like, if we did it for free, like as a like one time, like we'll do a random draw and some people will play, it's an investment of time for me, obviously, but I mean, I love GMing and whatever. I like playing with new players or inexperienced players or whatever, but it's an investment of time for the people playing, and that's tricky to pull off because there's an expectation that it would be like as fun as like Swan Song or whatever. And so, like, I feel like the other side of that would be like a paid thing, like where people could chip in and like I would GM for them. Like that, again, like it's so much more pressure when somebody is expecting something back for their money, and money is like, it's not a, I don't know, it's not a free thing to like throw around, right? Like I would hate, because you can't control a GM. You can't control an experience. The GM doesn't have control over things. There's always variables, and sometimes you just have games that aren't as fun, and it's not anybody's fault. And like, I would just hate to be in that situation where it's like, well, the game was kind of like a bust, you know, and like you paid for it and it cost money and you're disappointed, and I don't know, it's a hard product to sell. So I've thought about it. You know, it's the kind of thing that like I would consider as part of like a Patreon, like, you know, or whatever, but you know, it's tricky. It's a tricky thing. Definitely something that I would like to do. I like playing with people, and I like being able to do stuff like that, but it's definitely a, you know, feels a little iffy to me, you know. But it would be super cool to like get to a place where we could yeah, money, it's not a free thing. Neither is time. It would be cool if there was an environment in which we could do that. Like, I think that a lot of people, like if you follow me on Twitter, you probably sent me the link, because I think everyone who follows me on Twitter did. Roll20 is looking for a like a pro GM right now, yeah, like that. I feel like that'd be such a fun gig, because you're not being paid by the players, you're being paid by an organization that wants to build a player base and wants to like have someone who's an expert with their tool and phrasing. Yeah, and like, I don't know, I think that would be super fun. And I, you know, fingers crossed that I can get in on that action, but you know, it's also just
at least promises success.
Neat. I don't know what that is, but 8%, 20% health, shitty dodge. Who already has a bad dodge? 5, 5, 0. Alright, Prosper. Boop. Yeah, I love GMing, and if I could do it for a living, that would be super sweet, but like, making... yeah, we're still doing phrasing. Yeah, it's fun, and I have definitely considered, you know, trying to find a way to monetize GM stuff, but it's not that easy. It's not just about, hey, let's take some money and do things for people. Hang on one second, chat. Let's see if there's anything else you want me to talk about. Oh, compromising with stubborn PCs. Yeah, okay, so this is a thing that like commonly referred to by chat in roleplay as, you know, salty PC syndrome.
By foul invention.
Where some players get obstinate if they don't get what they want. They get frustrated, or they get fed up. And I can definitely, like, I was feeling a little salty about some stuff that happened on West Marches, and not because I think that Steven is a bad GM, but just I didn't like what happened to my character. And I feel like it's one of those things that happens to everybody, you know, because it's a game, and because you're rolling dice. I really need to make my characters camp soon. I think I'll do that on the next room. You know, so you're engaging a system, you're playing a game, and there are losers and there are winners. In that, winning and losing at a mechanism means you get what you want or you don't, right? Like, you make an attack roll, you can lose at that attack roll, and it gets annoying, or like, it can be frustrating if the GM makes a call that's within their authority and you disagree with it, right? That can feel frustrating too. So I think that, like, the best you can do is just remember your players are people, and that's what I do, right? Like, Jeff and I have butted heads a little bit, you know, from time to time in game, and you know, it's just a thing that you have to be like, okay, this is why I think of it this way, and this is why you think of it that way, and let's look at the game, and is the game helping us? Is the game telling us who should be right? And yeah, like, hopefully the game does its job and helps moderate that for you, but if it doesn't, then you gotta fall back on that social contract and say, okay, I get that you're frustrated, I get what you want, I understand why you're like this, but like, you know, this is how the game works. This is how the authority structure is built, and we have to apply it as we play. And if you're playing with reasonable human beings, which I hope to God that you are, yes, someone take that sound clip of me saying Steven's a bad GM, and let me say it again. Steven's a bad GM. Send it to him. Email it to him right now. He'll get it when he comes home from his date. Anyway, I think that... Jesus. No, Grigori! Oh, it's a grim visage of the future, everybody.
Mortality clarified in a single strike.
Anyway, so I think that you just gotta work it out. Some players are terminally salty, and you have to choose if you want to play with people like that or not. And if you don't play with them. And if you do, you have made that choice. So salt is going to be on the table every time you play. And that's fine, right? Like when I was a kid, when we played D&D as a kid, everybody was super salty all the time. We had a spot on the character sheet for player kills. Like it was PvP all day, every day, which we were all in on it, right? We decided at the beginning, like, this is the kind of game we want to play, and that's how it's going to go. You know, it's part of the social contract. And people forget this. People expect that role-playing games exist outside of that, like, having to be a decent human being. And that somehow because you can... You know, you're playing a character, it exempts you from having to be a nice person, but it doesn't.
Decimated.
Yeah, it really doesn't. So, you know, I think that, like, you work with the player, you figure out the ways that they react to the game and how that stuff works. I'm gonna throw it here. Throw this bandage out. And you go from there. But treat your players like humans, you know? Terminal saltiness. I was really hoping not to have another fight in this room. I should have gone back. I'm a dummy. Alright, let's see if we can get through it. He said as his characters all got killed. Yeah, so thinking about open knowledge of roles. Okay, so somebody in chat, in case you missed it, because time delay and stuff, somebody was asking about keeping roles secret. If you've watched early episodes of Being Everything Else, you know that I do not approve. Because keeping a role secret means that you're in a position to cheat, right? And some games even go as far as saying, like, oh, well, if you don't like the role and the role's going to mess up your story, change it, right? Like, uh-oh, the big bad guy attacked and he dealt enough damage to kill you. Well, I better just lie and cheat and say that you didn't die. But, like, honestly, where is the fun in that? Like, where's the challenge? If one player in a game gets to change the rules of the game for themselves whenever they want, that's called cheating, and it's boring, and I wouldn't want to play in a game like that, and I would hope that none of the people I play with would want me to play that way either. So, I don't know. I get why some people think that it's a good idea, but it just leads to GM cheating, and I don't know. I just feel like it's shady, right? But again, like I can understand why. I wish this guy had a multi-attack. I can understand why it gets done. I can understand why people think it's a good idea, because you want to keep players in suspense and stuff. But also like why not just like keep them in suspense another way? Yeah, I know. Thanks, game. I noticed you've never played this before. I noticed you're a moron. Yeah, so just roll in the open and talk to the players. Like Swan Song episode 1, I don't know if we talked about it on screen, but like I straight up said this game is deadly. This game will if you get shot, you will die. You will straight up just get killed. And like you'll notice if you watch, there's a few glancing blows, but mostly if someone takes a real hit, they are corpseified nigh instantly. So you know, talk about it in advance. Lots of games like Shadowrun, Mirror Shades doesn't do that. Mirror Shades, if the character gets shot, if the characters get shot, they're not going to just flat out get killed. They'll probably be knocked unconscious, or something other bad will happen to them. We build this into... we built it into Dungeon World in the way of you get an extra roll, and then even if you fail that roll, there's still some stuff that could happen where you don't end up dead at the bottom of a set of stairs. What I think is really cool is that some games do a good job of just saying flat out, like, tell the players the stuff their characters don't know. You gotta trust the players to portray their character in a fair way. To say, okay, my character doesn't know that this guy is an evil murderer, but maybe my player does because some other stuff that happened while I was around. So you kind of, again, social contract, you go back and say, okay, we're all playing a game, and we're trying to play it with integrity and with good faith. You know, and that's kind of the thing that I try to do with games is like, I'm gonna roll, and if bad stuff happens to you, well, you knew what this was.
Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow.
Oh my god, it's Camp Town.
insidious
Yeah,
killer.
Camp Town races. Alright. Welcome to camp, everybody. We're going to drink soda and have some vigils. Alright, I need to heal these guys up. More healing. Pep talk. Ugh. Alright, let's try it. Yay! I should check if they're religious, but wow, that was a total waste. Okay. Well, still a good camp. I don't have too much to go. Let's distribute that stress a little bit. I think for one. Nope. Okay. Do I use a screen when I GM on
As the light
tabletop?
gains purchase,
No.
spirits are lifted.
So I use one
Purpose is
for.
made clear.
I use one for a torchbearer, but the torchbearer screen is about like this tall. It's like a third shorter than most screens, so I don't use it to block anything, but it's covered in information, which I find like having a vertical spread of info so helpful, because I'm really bad at remembering things most of the time when I GM. So in some games, depending on how complicated the game is, it's a near necessity for me as a GM. I have super bad memory. Do I have any... Is this gonna kill me if I click on it? It's pretty cool, but... Oh, energy! Grigori! You sickly... He's a leper. How can he be more sickly than that? Oh, you have leprosy. Oh, you also have a cold. You're a little sniffly. You disgusting leper. Yeah. You know, I think going back to the whole thing about like fudging rolls and stuff, it's a way for the GM to assert authority over the story, which I prefer to call like the ongoing narrative or the narrative, because story is a thing that comes after a game. But I think it's an illusion that the GM is responsible for the narrative, and that the GM has some authority over it that everybody else doesn't. Okay, is there anything I can do to buff myself before I go and kill this witch? Wish me luck, everybody. The GM, you know, the GM doesn't get special special
A
stuff.
slathering testament to the powers of corruption.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just talking to Emily about the pots. Yeah, so I don't know. Rolling. I tend to prefer games where the PC's ability to screw with things is a feature, not a bug. Or like if the players, how do I get the? Or do I destroy this thing and they jump out? I'll hit the camera. Yeah, like if the players screw up your story, then that's good, right? It makes the game something you get to experience from the outside too, and it keeps mixing it up. Yeah, I should have brought some AOE. This is gonna take me forever. Her stun resistance is probably really high. Yeah. I'm doomed. Do I do streaming sessions other than... No, so I've been thinking about it a lot lately, but I really like... I don't know, I don't have the practice with the equipment to do this very often, but I mean, if y'all are digging it, it's a thing that I could probably do more often. Honestly, like, the games I'm playing right now are all portable games, and I don't have... definitely do not have the technology to, you know, stream my DS. Oh, good. Well, welcome back, burners. Yes, and I also, like, I really want to stream. I really want to stream Daggerfall, because Daggerfall is awesome and ridiculous. So I'll probably end up doing that at some point. Okay, well, I am gonna retreat because this is going super bad for me, I think. You know, it's fine. Running away from a fight is a good idea when you're losing. Also got all that treasure. Let's bail out. Run, you fools. Oh, if I run and that guy's in the pot, I wonder if he dies. Or I can't retreat. Let's try. Yeah, so it'd be super fun to play a game that's a little bit more like not what everybody else is streaming. I guess that's what everybody thinks, right? Where you're like, oh, I want to play something that nobody else is playing, or
perched at the very precipice
whatever.
of oblivion.
But God, I don't know if I could play. I don't know if I could play.
True desperation is known only when escape is impossible.
That long. It's kind of intense. But we'll see. Keep an eye out. You know, if you're subscribed, you'll get the email. I do think sometimes, like, I have enough subscribers or followers or whatever they're called on Twitch that it might be worth it. It might be worth, you know, investing some time in that. And plus, I don't have a job right now, so that's super fun.
As life ebbs, terrible
keep in
vistas
mind.
of emptiness reveal themselves.
Why? Why is this dungeon so dark? Yeah, thanks. Strike the pot. I know.
Teetering
Oh,
on the
everybody's gonna
brink,
die, aren't they?
facing the abyss.
Okay. Yeah, wipe incoming for sure. I'm okay with that. I got lots of dudes. Ew. Oh my god, it's a wipe. It's a friggin' wipe.
And now the true test. Hold fast or expire.
I don't know if I can run from the boss.
Another life wasted in the pursuit of glory and gold. More dust, more ashes, more disappointment.
Somebody was asking about the origin story of my getting involved with roleplay. So, if you watch Roleplay R&D, you might know that what feels like a million years ago. See you later, everybody. So if you remember, like a long time ago, they played Dungeon Worlds. I think Day 9 was the guest on that one. And I noticed that because obviously, like, a friend said, oh hey, they're playing their game on this thing, and I'm not like, I remember it was embarrassing for me because I was like, I didn't really know who any of the pro streamers are because I'm so bad at StarCraft and like any kind of esports is just like way outside my experience of video games. Like, you know, just not a thing that I get. Oh, Gwynand, you were the last. So they played it. Somebody let me know. I talked to Steven a little bit about GMing it, if there's anything I could do to help, you know, but from a like game designer perspective, like, hey, do you guys need anything like special or custom for your game, or whatever? And then we met at PAX East last year and started talking about something that we could do together, like as a group. And then JP approached me about doing. We did a one shot of 5th edition. I think you might remember. I ran it for Steven, Neil, and JP. And somebody else. God, it feels like it was a long time ago. Anyway, and then after that, I got started with Swan Song, and it's all just kind of been history from there. Doing Swan Song and Mirror Shades right now, which is the...
More blood soaks the soil.
Godspeed, Gwynand. You bunch of jerks.
You will endure this loss. And
Everybody make screenshots. Let's all take a moment here. Pour one out on the curb for our dead homies. That's okay. Yeah. So, that's the story for me. Getting involved with
barbaric rage and unrelenting
Dive
symmetry make
Bugelin.
for a
This guy's name is
powerful
Dive
ally.
Bugelin. That is the worst name I've ever seen on a human being. Welcome to the team.
A mighty
Dive.
sword arm anchored by holy
So,
purpose.
moral of the story: don't name your
zealous
characters
warrior.
after roleplay characters. They will get murdered. Yeah, I was trying to run, but it didn't seem like a thing that I could do, which is kind of funny. Yes, I only had 2,000 chances to run away. It's true. That's okay. I don't mind. I don't play to win. I play to enjoy. Evidently, I also play to lose. Okay, I'm gonna check gear on some of these losers and then jump into another dungeon. Because hey, why stop at just one TPK when you could have 2 or 3? Words to live by. Choose me for the next expedition. You don't mean that. I am a little sad that I lost that ring that I got. That ancient whatever, but I'm bad at this, so. No one claimed I was any good at games. No one claimed such a thing. How many level 3 missions? Just level 5, huh? Role-playing games abuse the word dungeon. Yeah, dungeon. I mean, you can blame World of Warcraft for that. World of Warcraft turned dungeon into kind of like a generic word that means place where adventure occurs, which I'm kind of okay with, actually. But it definitely doesn't mean what it used to, which is to say, like a word in English. I'm just kind of like being out. Sure, why not? Yeah, it's a sad day. Sad day. TPK in Darkest Dungeon. And then also no Swan Song. So sad. Yeah, I really I think it's interesting, like if you look at how role-playing games like D&D in particular have influenced tabletop has influenced video games. I think we're getting to a point in the sort of generational build in the advancement of time where it's starting to work the other way around, where we're seeing computer games and console games get ported, their mechanics and their environment get ported back. like, and I hate the comparison because people always use it negatively, but 4th edition D&D has a lot of World of Warcraft DNA kind of built into it, and that's totally a good thing. You know, it was a design experiment on their part, and they made some cool choices, and I think 4E is a good game. But
As the fiend falls, faint hope blossoms.
but you know, like it's really cool to see some of that structure get played back, and I won't lie, when I design, especially with D&D, you know, my 12-person, you know, live weekly game, it's so influenced by like Skyrim and World of Warcraft and Dark. I was gonna say Dark Ages. It's influenced by the Dark Ages. It's influenced by Dragon Age. So, you know, I think it's really cool to see that happening as time goes on, and I think that what's gonna happen more and more. There we go. As development occurs with, you know, role-playing games of the tabletop variety, where that technology advances, because frankly, it hasn't advanced in a very long time. Like, games today, tabletop games, are not that different than they were in the 70s. So, you know, I think that as we see it advance, we're going to see more integration of technology that we have available to us outside of the, you know, dice and paper and pens and the tabletop, right? Like, look at, what is that, Golem Arcana? That game...
Confidence surges as the enemy.
That game is just like full of really, really cool integration between technology and tabletop.
Prodigious size alone does not dissuade
and so,
the sharpened blade.
You know, I think that we need more of that for tabletop games to survive, because the audience isn't coming from war games anymore. It's not coming from the same places that it used to. It's coming from video games, and if people expect games to mean a certain thing, then they're gonna get out of here. Then they're gonna want it to be that way, and they're gonna be surprised when it doesn't. And I think that as designers, you know, it's our kind of responsibility to make things fit an expectation, but also defy it. To say, like, these are the ways in which this tabletop game is what you expect from a D&D, and this is the way that the game is different. These are the weird things.
With a singular purpose.
Obviously, innovation, like, to me, is maybe one of the most important things in development and design, which is ironic considering that the one published role-playing game that I have is a hack of a different game. But I mean, it maybe seems self-serving to say this, but I think that a good hack, like a well-designed drift, is an innovation in its own way. You know, you look at something like League of Legends, and it's just you know, Warcraft 3 hack.
Not be left unanswered.
So I think you can do a lot with building on what we already have, the tools that designers and developers already have available to us. You can tell that I'm, like, more concerned about dying now, like, after that TPK, because I'm talking less and paying more attention to the game. Trying not to lose. Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. Torelli the God, I was just asking about Pi's personality in Swan Song. So if you're a Swan Song viewer, Pi is special crew member of the ship. I don't want to spoil things if you've just started watching. But I think with any NPC's personality, even ones that are like kind of weird side characters like Pi, I think that the way I approach it is functionally pretty similar. I try to make them want things. And then portraying them is just a way of getting at how do they get what they want, right? Like, and this can go for playing PC or NPCs or whatever. You know, just think about what the character wants from their existence, from their current situation, and what tools do they have at their exposure to get at their hands to get it. Like, you know, Pi, for example, has their relationship with the crew of the Swan Song. They have that available to help them get what they want. They have the Swan Song itself. They have their own accumulated knowledge of the universe around them that they can use. And I take that approach with basically every NPC in any game that I run. It's like, okay, what does this person want, and what do they have to get it? You put those two things together, and you can make NPCs that feel like real.
A trifling victory.
They feel like real
But a
characters,
victory nonetheless.
real people, even if they're not people, right? So, you know, I think that like a big part of being the GM
are often low on supplies.
is learning how people work, right? Is understanding. How many rooms do I have? 6. Okay, I'll do one more. And if you can understand how people think and like the way that people approach their like moment to moment lives, you know, like look at next time you're having a conversation with somebody. I mean, try not to do it in a conversation that's like super important. Like, don't do it when you're on the phone with like a 911 dispatcher or something. But like next time you're having a casual conversation, try to kind of imagine like the person that you're talking to and like what do they want from this conversation, and what are they doing or saying to get themselves to that place, right? Because I think knowing that and like understanding that, like people are maybe more simple than they appear to be a lot of the time. Not everybody, but some people. We all really just want things, and sometimes those things conflict with other things that we want, and that's where you start getting really complicated, right? Like most of the NPCs in Swan Song either don't live long enough or are just on screen such a short time that we don't get to learn where their conflicts are, and we don't see a lot of depth for them. But you know, I think that the characters that stick around, like Mustafa Lee, I think is going to have some legs on the show. I think that Connor Wu, obviously, if you're you know a fan of the show, I think he's probably going to stick around. Just because I think that the players like him. And so I think that, you know, you don't have to reveal everything all at once as a GM. You don't have to be like, hey, so here's a character, and here's literally everything about it. And they sit you down at the tavern, and they're like, my name is Dristorden, and let me tell you my tale. And so you sit there listening to the GM explain an NPC for the whole session, and you're like, okay, cool, we don't care. This guy's got 5 hit points, he dies. But it's just like revealing the world to players, and this is advice that I think I give a lot of the time, is that if you're revealing a world to players, just show them the thing that's right in front of them, and then hint at the things around them and let them go after the things that they want to learn, right? Don't say, like, you're in this town is in the kingdom of such and such, it's ruled by this king, and the king is married to this person, and this person has this power, and they're from this kingdom, and this kingdom is far away, but not as far away as this other kingdom, and you can only reach it by a train, but the train is broken. Like, just say, like, you're in a town, and you're in this inn, and the inn has beer that's special in some way, and like give them little things to cue off of, and then they're gonna go wander off and find those other things themselves. Do I want to camp now, or should I press on? We got 5 rooms. I'm more than halfway there. Let's camp. Yeah, so you know, like the way that like people ask me like, oh, how did you get like past the groups like violence to make Connor survive? And I just made like Connor is fan service for the players. Like he's just one of them. He's the same kind of asshole that they are, and is the same abrasive douche that they are. And like it's not a negative thing about the players, but it's a way for me to say like he's the mirror that reflects the way they behave, right? And he fits in, and that's why he's still alive. And that's an easy hack for me. It was a way for me to say, okay, guys, he's one of your own. So, you know, you'll learn your players as people, and you'll learn their characters, and they'll build over time. Can I reduce her stress at all? I don't think so. Let's do some buffing. Yeah, and so like you let people learn about the characters as you learn about them, and you know, like guaranteed that the last 10 episodes of Swan Song will be better because we're all better at playing with each other than the first 10 episodes by like a long shot, right? All right, strong and powerful. Let us carry on. At least I don't have another boss to fight.
The match is struck. A blazing
Sorry,
star
I keep leaning
is
over because
born.
I'm looking at chat on my phone. How much of the finer details am I giving to bait to the players? Oh, yeah, I mean, like, so this is another advantage that you have if you decide to only establish the desires of a character and the tools they have available to get at those desires, is you can improvise everything else. Like, I could just decide things about a character that, as long as I'm not contradicting myself, or I'm contradicting myself in a way that makes sense fictionally, I can make characters more interesting by throwing in new stuff. You know? Like, I didn't express before that, Van Dorn, I don't know, she's a NPC that was in a couple of episodes of Swan Song. So I just decided off the cuff that she was a lesbian. That was like a thing I wanted to, because I wanted to portray a non-straight character on the show, and because I thought it would be interesting that, because male role-playing game characters played by male role players always end up trying to offer each other up as like sexual objects to NPCs to try to seduce their way through a problem, or you know, they hit on NPCs because it's just a thing that happens in role-playing games because it's whatever. So instead of being like, well, she rejects you and doesn't, like, she gets mad, I thought it would be fun to just be like, actually the only person that she's interested in the group might be Peony, and the rest of you can be as, you know, you can be as forward as you want with her, but she's just gonna laugh it off because she's not interested, you know. So I think that like, and that came up literally just as a reaction to one of the PCs addressing a female NPC the way that male PCs often do, you know. And I was like, okay, how can I react to this in a different way than usual? So, you know, keep your NPCs as a framework of desires, but be willing to let them surprise you, you know? There's some kind of chatting going on about being banned, and I don't know. I don't think I have that many mods, if any. I think Scoticus is one. Take care of it, moderators. Attend. Luzon, you're asking about Foundation. So Foundation is part of a like larger group of what I think gets called Imperial Sci-Fi, or it's this kind of like 70s sci-fi that takes like Dune is Imperial Sci-Fi. So I was really more kind of going for that generalized genre than something specific. You know, so there, like, a lot of Foundation is just slow, talky stuff, and that I think you see more in the GM turn than on screen. But it's definitely in the back of my head. That kind of like sci-fi, that pedigree of sci-fi is definitely in my head. Okay, it was the troll. Awesome. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so somebody, Spin Kick 360, just asking about like live development of a role-playing game. It's a strange daydream of mine to put, like, we were talking about how to put the, Steve and I were talking about how to put the D in R&D, because they do lots of research and they play games, but there hasn't been any development yet. I feel like that would be so cool to be able to be like, okay, we're playtesting this game. I've got just the most basic rules ready. We're going to test these rules. We're going to talk about them at the end of the session for an hour, get feedback. I'm going to change the game before the next session, and just like keep doing that. And like that, I want to do more stuff that has never been done in that regard, like to role-playing games. And I know it's a super niche audience already, but like,
could be heard from the tavern.
man, that'd be so cool. I'm all over it. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty into how that's kind of going. How like doing more roleplay stuff has kind of given me the chance to want to do more and to expand that stuff out even more, and to do different kinds of shows, which I think you'll see if again if you're got some time, 5 o'clock on Friday. 5 o'clock Pacific on Friday, we're doing Being Everything Else, which is a lot like just a lot of what I'm talking about now, but more focused. We pick a title and we'll actually go into that stuff and talk about things. Steve and I are going to be doing a show about chaos. You should check it out if you like such things. If you're looking to improve your GMing
and companionship, the rush of life.
And I think I've been at this for a little bit. I think I'm gonna probably go off stream for a bit. I'm sorry to disappoint y'all. It's been totally cool. I've had a really good time, even though I wiped and all my dudes died. Yeah, it's been a slice streaming and chatting with you, and I really think that this is a thing that I would like to do more. Play a game where I don't have to totally focus. I'm not gonna be able to do this with shooters, but just like hang out and play games and shoot the shit about role-playing games and stuff. I'm super bummed. Totally sorry, everybody, that we couldn't play Swan Song tonight. We're gonna reschedule that. I promise. I wouldn't let it not happen. And if you're looking to get your Adam GM fix, you should come on back to JP on Thursday this week at 6 Pacific, if that's a time zone you can fit in. If you're from Europe, I'm really sorry that we don't stream at a different time for you, but yeah, come check it out. And I guess I'll probably throw this video up on my YouTube. Weird, streaming video games now. So yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. Mirror Shades Thursday, Being Everything Else Friday, Swan Song next week. It's been a delight. Y'all are great. Thanks for everything.